Welcome to this explainer. Look, we live in an era where it feels like we've pretty much got the whole world figured out, right? We've got supercomputers sitting right in our pockets. We've successfully mapped the human genome. But today, we're going to completely shatter that illusion. We are going to prove just how much of our world remains stubbornly, almost impossibly unexplained, despite all of our modern scientific hubris. To help us wrap our heads around all this unknown, we've organized these historical anomalies into four distinct buckets: deadly plagues and medical anomalies, impossible ancient engineering feats, bizarre events and sudden disappearances, and finally, undeciphered codes and mysterious artifacts. Let's dive right in. Section 1. Deadly plagues and medical anomalies. So, picture this. It's the late 1400s, and a disease known as the English sweating sickness strikes in 5 devastating waves between 1485 and 1551. Imagine a sickness that hits with intense fear and chills out of nowhere, literally killing its victims within 24 hours of the very first symptom. It wiped out an estimated 35,000 people, with a horrifying 50% mortality rate. And then, after 1551, it just completely vanished. Poof, gone forever. Modern researchers suspect it might have been an early form of hantavirus, but honestly, we have absolutely no definitive proof. And it gets worse. Fast forward to the sleeping sickness that completely swept the globe between 1917 and 1928. The symptoms were like a living nightmare. Extreme exhaustion, severe muscle pain, dramatic psychiatric changes. And for nearly half of the survivors, total paralysis while being completely conscious. It left 500,000 people dead, and countless others literally trapped inside their own bodies, frozen like living statues. And just like the sweating sickness, it vanished abruptly. Now, you might be thinking this is all just ancient history, but absolutely not. Compare that 1500 sweating sickness with the completely baffling brain injuries of the modern Havana syndrome. Starting back in 2016, CIA officers and diplomats suddenly reported hearing these strange, high-pitched grinding noises, followed by extreme vertigo, hearing loss, and literal concussion-like injuries. This spread globally to over 1,500 U.S. officials. Was it a directed microwave energy weapon? Was it mass stress? The truth is, we still have zero clue. Moving right along to Section 2, impossible ancient engineering feats. How on earth did early humans manage to construct the massive circular enclosures of Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey? We are talking about towering 6-meter-tall T-shaped limestone pillars that weigh over 50 tons, and they were created by hunter-gatherers long before the invention of agriculture or writing. How do you even organize a massive labor force like that without a complex, structured society? The most staggering detail is the age. Get this, the site is 12,000 years old. This completely throws our timeline of human architectural history right out the window. We've always assumed that complex building required farming societies to develop first, but Göbekli Tepe totally proves that wrong. Even stranger, around 8,000 BC, this entire sprawling complex was intentionally buried under thousands of tons of stone and soil for reasons we simply cannot fathom. Or check out India's 8th century Kailasa temple. The scale of this thing is just mind-blowing. It was carved entirely top-down from a single rock cliff. That means the builders had to plan the entire monument flawlessly in advance, removing 250,000 tons of solid basalt rock. But here's the absolute kicker. Zero debris has ever been found in the surrounding area. Seriously, where did 250,000 tons of solid rock go? It's a similar story over in Bolivia at Pumapunku. Here, you've got massive H-shaped stones weighing up to 130 tons, carved from andesite and diorite, which are incredibly hard materials. They fit together with perfect interlocking joints. Yet the civilization that built this after 536 AD did it all without iron tools, cranes, or even wheeled transport. It's just wild. Let's pivot from massive stones to intricate metalwork. Found in a shipwreck and dating all the way back to 15 BC, the Antikythera Mechanism is essentially the world's very first analog computer. It's packed with complex bronze gears used to map celestial movements and predict eclipses. But here is the catch. A technology of this incredible sophistication inexplicably vanished. Literally no other machine of this complexity existed anywhere in the world for another 1,000 years.
Which brings us to Section 3, Bizarre Events and Sudden Disappearances.
The Sandbyborg massacre of the 5th century in Sweden is genuinely chilling. There's a total, complete lack of defensive wounds on any of the victims. The bodies were left unburied exactly where they fell for over 1,500 years. And get this, highly valuable gold, silver, and Roman coins were left completely untouched right next to them, proving that robbery wasn't the motive. The site was permanently abandoned. It completely defies any logical explanation of warfare or pillaging we know of. Shifting over to the Himalayas, we've got a massive puzzle. What violently killed hundreds of people from completely different eras in a remote glacial lake, sitting 16,500 feet above sea level? This is Rupkund Lake, an absolutely freezing, isolated spot that is completely disconnected from any known ancient trade routes.
The sheer volume is what's truly shocking here. We are talking about 600 to 800 human skeletons scattered in and around this lake. And science tells us they are from wildly different eras, from 800 AD all the way up to 1800 AD. We're looking at different genetic groups separated by hundreds of years, all making the trek to this remote location and dying, many from mysterious blunt force trauma to the head. Just why?
Okay, let's look at a modern classic, D.B. Cooper's infamous 1971 skyjacking. This guy hijacks a plane, extorts $200,000, and then literally jumps out of a commercial airliner into a freezing thunderstorm over Washington state in the dead of night. He vanishes completely. Fast forward to 1980, and a kid unearths a tiny fraction of the ransom money buried by a river. The FBI spent 45 years hunting this guy before officially throwing in the towel and closing the unsolved case in 2016. But mysteries can be incredibly localized, too. Take the Overton Bridge in Scotland. Since the 1950s, over 300 long-snouted dogs have inexplicably leaped to their peril from one very specific section of the bridge. And strangely enough, this almost always happens on clear, sunny days. Is it a weird animal scent? Some kind of optical illusion? Nobody's theory fully explains why this one specific bridge causes such a tragic anomaly. Finally, we arrive at Section 4. Undeciphered codes and mysterious artifacts. Honestly, we define the Roman dodecahedron entirely by our own ignorance. It's this 12-sided, hollow bronze object, and we have wildly contradictory theories about what it actually is. Some experts swear it's a knitting tool to make gloves. Others say it's an astronomical measuring device, or a children's toy, or even a religious object. Basically, we have over 50 theories and exactly 0 facts. And what's really baffling is that over 130 of these objects have been found all across Europe. They were clearly important, often carefully stored with valuable coin hoards, yet there are exactly 0 written Roman records explaining what they actually do. The Romans documented absolutely everything, but on this one specific object, they left us nothing. And then there are the lost languages, like the Rongorongo and the Indus scripts. For Easter Island's Rongorongo, the knowledge of how to read it was tragically wiped out by disease and slave raids, leaving us with only fragile, incomplete wooden tablets. As for the ancient Indus script from Pakistan and India, the inscriptions are just too brief. They average only 5 symbols per text, making it literally impossible for modern linguists to identify any grammar or structure.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, a lingering, pretty provocative question remains. If we can't even solve the mysteries of our own human past, our ancient diseases, our monumental engineering, our lost languages, how can we possibly hope to understand the mysteries of our future? It really reminds us that human knowledge is a constant, ongoing pursuit, not a finished product. I want to leave you with this beautiful thought from Albert Einstein to ponder as we conclude our journey through the mysteries that continue to defy our modern world. Stay curious, folks, because the unknown is exactly what drives us forward. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.